he lived a long full life, so it's I mean it's understandable he's quite old. But 1 second, let me read this article. All right, you guys, let's read this article. Okay, Lubomir Kavalek, 1943 to 2021, written by Peter Doggers. The Czech American Grandmaster, former number 10 in the world, coach, organizer, trainer, commentator, author, columnist, and member of the U.S. Chess Hall of Fame, Lubomir Lubosh Kavalek, died at the age of 77 after a brief but severe illness. The news was confirmed by his wife, Irina. Kavalek was born in Prague, Czechoslovakia, now in the Czech Republic, on August 9th, 1943, exactly 5 months after GM Bobby Fischer. He won the first national championship in 1962 at the age of 19. In the same year, he played one of his most famous games as black against Edward Gufeld in the World Student Team Championship. Okay, so let's keep going. Kavalek earned the titles of International Master and Grandmaster in the same year, 1965. It has been said that he was the most talented among a golden generation of Czechoslovakian players that also included GM's Vladimir Hort, Vladimir Jansa, and Jan Smejkal. The year 1968, when Kavalek won his second national championship in his first major tournament, Amsterdam, ahead of GM David Bronstein, was a turning point in his life and a historic year for his country. After 8 months of mass protests in the Czechoslovak Socialist Republic, Soviet tanks rolled into Prague in August 1968. By the way, getting back to someone who donated earlier, of course, as most of you know, that is why Jaromir Jagr, the Czech hockey player, his jersey number is 1968, sort of for that exact reason. Of course, 68 is when the terrible Soviets rolled in, and they invaded another country. Obviously, I have no problem saying that. Of course, you know, Soviet Union was they were terrible. Let's keep going on. Okay, here's a picture, of course. Bronstein congratulates Kavalek. Amsterdam, 1968, a month before the protests in Czechoslovakia were stopped with military force by the Soviets. Photo courtesy of the Dutch National Archives. Let's keep going. Kavalek, an anti-communist himself, was playing the Akiva Rubinstein Memorial in Poland, where he finished in second place when it happened. He decided to defect to the West. After 2 years in Germany, Kavalek moved to the U.S., where his father lived. He had left Czechoslovakia as early as 1948. When he returned to Czechoslovakia in early 1990 after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Kavalek would say, "I thought I was in some sort of reverse zombie movie because everyone was smiling all the time." Yeah, again, I think you know, when you look at this, like, you know, not to be political, but I think it says a lot, like, how the times change. You see, he says he thought he was in a reverse zombie movie because everyone was smiling all the time. You know, again, I think you have to understand it was very, very bad. There was a lot of repression, and everyone was very relieved. So it was sort of an end of a very terrible era, certainly in the Czech Republic. He would return happily to his native country on many occasions. One of the last time being in early 2020 for the Prague Chess Festival. There's this tweet by Jerome Vandenberg, who is the organizer, by the way, of Tata Steel. Reunion with participants and organizers of the legendary tournament in Prague 1990 with the famous game Havel Kog, explained again by Lubosh Kavalek. All right, let's keep going. On Wikipedia, the story behind Kavalek's defection in 1968 was taken from Andrew Soltis' 2000 book, The 100 Best Chess Games of the 20th Century. Kavalek was said to have bought several crates of vodka with his winnings, which he used to bribe the border guards. Again, when you look at these sorts of things, like you see 100 best chess games of the 20th century, and then you see Kavalek was said to have bought several crates of vodka with his winnings, which he used to bribe border guards. You know, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Kavalek himself later provided more details in his Huffington Post column while not questioning Soltis' version. At the time, I was supposed to play the first board of the Czechoslovakian team at the Lugano Olympiad, having won the strongest national championship in history ahead of Smejkal, Hort, Philip, Pachman, Jansa, Yanada, and others. During the summer, I added a first-place finish at the IBM tournament in Amsterdam ahead of David Bronstein, and I was just in the middle of the race with the former world champion Vasily Smyslov in Poland when the Soviet and other Warsaw Pact armies invaded my country on August 21st. During the next 10 days, it became clear to me that I had to go to the West. I played a few simultaneous exhibitions in Poland, the last one in Warklaw. I know I'm probably mispronouncing that, but yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes, of course it's completely normal to be invaded by another country. Totally normal, you guys. Totally normal and totally acceptable. Like, sorry, but no, it's not. 2 years later, it's Vorklov. Okay, Vorklov. Okay. 2 years later, on the way to the US, Kavalek won a strong term in Caracas, Venezuela, ahead of Leonid Stein, Oscar Pano, Palbenko, Boris Ivkov, and a young Anatoly Karpov. He played the first half under the Czechoslovakian flag and the second half under the American flag, soon to be his new country of residence. Okay, let's keep going. Here's a picture, I guess, from a tournament he played in Venezuela in 1970. This was against, who is this against? This was against this is Anatoly Karpov here. Crazy. Look at this picture of Karpov. He looks so young here. That's insane. Anyway, let's keep going. In his native country, he had studied communication and journalism, which would serve him well later. Having settled in Washington, D.C. with his wife Irina, he studied Slavic literature at George Washington University and briefly worked at Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. Later, he would move to Reston, Virginia. In 1972, Kavalek tied for first place at the U.S. Championship together with GM's Robert Byrne and Samuel Reshevsky. Of course, they also need no introduction. Amazing players as well. A few months later, he was one of the seconds of Fischer for his World Championship match in Reykjavik. Kavalek got a second U.S. title also in 1973, sharing first with John Grave, and his third in 1978, the edition he finished in clear first place, a full point ahead of James Tarjan. The year 1973 was big. Kavalek became a full-time chess professional and won 4 tournaments in 1 year. He had clearly established himself as a world-class grandmaster. He was in the world's top 100 between 1962 and September 1988, peaking at number 10 in 1974. Between 1972 and 1986, Kavalek played a total of 7 Olympiads for the U.S. national team, including the year 1976 when the team won gold in the absence of the Eastern Bloc teams. Fun fact about that Olympiad, by the way, 1976. That was the U.S. team would win the gold medal in the 2016 Olympiad in Baku 40 years later. But in 1976, when they won the gold medal, the players the medals they received had actual gold in them. I believe most of the players would go on to sell their medals because they had physical gold in them. So I just thought I would mention that as well. Hans Niemann with Karpov. This is not Hans Niemann, you guys, but thank you for that. This is Jan Timman, a former world championship contender, but thank you for that. Thank you for that comment, you guys. Thank you for that one. But yes, this is Anatoly Karpov. That's I think that's Hort here, if I'm not mistaken. That's Vladimir Hort. That's Anatoly Karpov, Lubomir Kavalek, and Jan Timman. So let's keep going. Okay, let's keep going. His path in world championship cycles was less successful. He qualified for several interzonal tournaments, but never qualified for the candidates matches. In 1967 in Sousse, he was one of 3 players to draw with Bobby Fischer. Let's keep going. The Dutch Grandmaster Jan Timman was the second to Kavalek at the Manila Interzonal Tournament and has good memories. We did very useful work there. It was a good cooperation. Some of his wins were largely based on our joint preparation, such as against GM Boris Spassky and GM Wolfgang Ullmann. Okay, so let's keep going. From an early stage, Kavalek was involved in organizing events as well. In the early 1970s, he had a connection with the popular singer Bobby Darin, a big chess fan himself. A low-profile tournament was organized, but sadly, bigger plans for a 25,000 Bobby Darin Classic didn't come through. In 1979, Kavalek was a co-organizer of the tremendously strong Tournament of the Stars in Montreal, in which he participated himself. The prize fund was $110,000, very high for those days. Wow, that's crazy. $110K in 1979. That's pretty insane. That is really insane. Kavalek started with what he himself called a catastrophic 1.5 out of 9, but then things improved in the second half as he performed better than any other player with 6.5 out of 9. He called it his career best result in a single tournament. Let's keep going. Kavalek was also involved in the Grandmaster Chess Association in the 1980s together with Bessel Koch. Timon, quote unquote, he did excellent work, for instance, in the area of contacting and working with tournament organizers. Kavalek had quite the career as a trainer, coach, second as well. Besides the aforementioned Fischer, he also worked with Mark Deason when he won the World Juniors in 1976 and with GM's Robert Byrne Eugenio Torre, Yasser Seirawan, Robert Hubner, and Nigel Short. And of course, there's a tweet by Nigel. It says, "Over my shoulder, Lubomir Kavalek, 1943-2021." Okay. No, he worked with a lot of people. Okay, so we keep going. Kavalek helped Short for an important part of his World 1992-1993 PCA World Championship cycle, which culminated in the 1993 PCA Championship against Garry Kasparov. After a big argument with Short, Kavalek was fired just a few games into the match. Okay, fair enough. And who said there was no drama in chess, by the way? Who said there's no drama? Seriously. Get into a big argument during a match, and get fired. Okay. You know what that reminds me of? I think I've alluded to this many times already today or in the last couple of days. So I've started watching the F1 series on Netflix, and I've sort of started believing that they should have done this with chess during the Grand Chess Tour in past years. Obviously, it was a very big missed opportunity because it reminds me of F1 when a driver messes up, they fire the driver. Someone screws something up mechanically, they get fired. And in chess, it's the same thing. This match, clearly probably what happened is there was some argument probably over probably some opening choice or something along these lines, and they probably had some big argument, and that's why he got fired. Now I don't know that for a fact, but that's an assumption. So there is a lot of drama going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff that matters. All right, let's keep going. Timur recalls a comment from Karpov, with whom he played a FIDE World Championship match at the same time. "It was very stupid of Short to send Kavalek home," said Karpov. "Kavalek was the only person in their team that Kasparov truly hated." A year later, Kavalek would publish a well-received series of articles in British Chess Magazine about the preparation for the match with Kasparov. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, there's this picture, British Chess Magazine. The UK exclusive, the Kavalek Files, Part 1. Nice, good stuff. All right, let's keep going. The Kavalek Files in British Chess Magazine. Kavalek would further cement his reputation as an excellent writer when he took on the chess column for the Washington Post in 1986, a column he would cover for 23 years. According to Australian GM Ian Rogers, the quality of the column became especially high when the articles were moved from the paper version to the online version where the space limit was dropped. His columns were magnificent with fantastic analysis of games, says Rogers. When the column was discontinued in 2010, he had written 760 pieces. He would continue for a few more years in the Huffington Post, where Kavalek was the one who coined the description Mozart of chess for GM Magnus Carlsen. Kavalek was also involved in a number of excellent books as the editor-in-chief of chess publisher RHM Press. Examples are How to Open a Chess Game, with contributions from Larry Evans, Paul Karras, Savitar Gligorich, Vladimir Hort, Bent Larsen, Tigran Petrosian, and Lejos Portish. And Vicon Z Grandmaster Chess Tournament 1975, one of the best tournament books ever written. This book, by the way, it is about the tournament that's ongoing right now. So very, very important book, by the way. Make sure to check it out. I haven't actually read it cover to cover, but I have looked at parts and through some of the games. So make sure to check it out. Kavalek also spent many years writing a tournament book about Montreal 1979 that sadly never came about, and in more recent times he worked on his memoirs. Kavalek participated 7 times in the Vicon Z tournament that is currently underway. In 1975, he won the Leo Van Kolk Prize for the most spectacular game against GM Lejos Portish. The annotators are from the tournament bulletin. All right, let's keep going. Here's another picture we have. June 16th, 1979, world champion Anatoly Karpov from the Soviet Union faces Grandmaster Lubomir Kavalek from the United States in the third round of the quadrangular tournament in the Dutch town of Waddinxveen. All right, so let's keep going. We have another tweet from Nigel Short. Saddened to learn of the death of my former trainer, the Czechoslovakian and U.S. champion Lubosh Kavalek. What he lacked in originality, he compensated for in assembling material and organizing work, a particular weakness of mine, and for that I'm eternally grateful. Okay, another tweet by Ruslan Ponomarov. Rest in peace, Lubomir Kavalek, the real chess legend. As a small kid, I was inspired by his play to study chess. Let's keep going. Ian Rogers writes, rest in peace, Lubosh Kavalek. Not only a great friend and player, his mind over matter game versus Gufeld is classic, but wrote one of the very best chess columns in the Washington Post. Left 2 unpublished works, a 500-plus page book on Montreal 1979, as good as Zurich in 1953. As good as Zurich 1953, he said, and his memoirs. So yeah, very, very good article. what I would say is I did not know him very well personally. I met Lubomir Kavalek, I think, on 2 occasions when I was quite young, when I was like an IM or GM, or just after I become a GM. I was very familiar with his column in the Washington Post. Again, not someone that I knew from a very different generation, certainly, but someone that I had a lot of respect for, and someone that I looked at some of his games very, very closely. So really sad to see that he died. That being said, he did have a very long life. I believe he was 77 years old. So it was a life well spent, and obviously rest in peace, obviously, to him, to his family as well. Condolences. And I mean, I think that the works that he did with the column, the games he played, and of course being someone from that era, sort of not the golden era, but from an era when there was a lot of turbulence, a lot of upheaval. Just a great chess player, great person. So yeah. All right,